Welcome to Legacy Blueprints, where we help you build a strong financial foundation for generations to come.
I compare funerals to weddings, and people call me crazy all the time. How can you compare the two? But if you really think about wedding and a funeral, both require a location,
Right.
food, flowers, music, different kind of music, but they require and guests,
Yeah.
right? But the differences are what make funeral planning, in my view, more important. You're not in control of a funeral, whereas you are in control of a wedding. You can always delay a wedding, cancel it, postpone it, move it. You choose the date. You don't choose the date when you pass away. And it has to happen fast, and there's no canceling or moving it. And emotions, right? A wedding, hopefully everybody's excited. When it comes to a funeral, nobody's excited. Everybody's broken emotionally. So we help remove the administrative burden, the financial burden. We only leave the family with the emotional burden, because there is no company out there that can handle the emotional burden. But if that's all you have to focus on, because you have a 24/7 advisor who's planning that funeral for you, helping you make those decisions at your own pace from home, so you can go and deal with your emotions how you need to, you're going to be a lot better equipped to return back to your life with a healthier mentality.
And I really appreciate just that concept of having a professional at your side, literally holding your hand through that process. But unfortunately, a lot of the challenges that we run into today is that people don't want to do that for a variety of reasons. I mentioned a lot of times when I run into the people that, I'm trying to help or work with, I usually categorize them in three categories. There's people who are either A, arrogant, B, lazy, C, humble. But even with all three of them is the ability to be fearful. You see, arrogant people, they think they know it all. You can't tell me what to do. I can handle it on my own. I don't need any outside help, even though the situation says otherwise. Lazy people may be told what to do, but because they want to stay in their comfort zone, they want to continue going down the path that they're already on because it's easier that way. Humble people, willing to see areas that need improvement, find those areas, accept the help, and actually make those changes. But fear of being judged, fear of being down on, or fear of being taken advantage of, all of that can affect those people. So with all that in mind, because I'm sure you have a lot of experience working with a variety of people from various backgrounds, whether it be socioeconomic, culture, whatever, what are some ways that you have been able to overcome those challenges?
Well, so the two experiences that are identical in life, or no matter where you come from, what your background is birth and death. Because we're all human. That's not a unique experience to anybody. Right? We may think it's unique, but everybody goes through virtually the same process. So it's really not something that should be defined based on the origin or background of the individual. But the alternatives are, if you don't do Everest, then you do nothing, and your family struggles and has no preparation. And then, even if you're arrogant, your family's gonna make it worse, because they're gonna have to go out to outside help at time of need, like GoFundMe. And does anybody here want to be identified on a billboard that they passed away with nothing? Probably not, right? Nobody wants to be exposed as broke in the United States today, because people don't want to say I don't have money. But let alone being blasted that you weren't responsible to paying for a funeral after you're gone. Is that the memory you want to leave? That's one. That's how you attack arrogant. Humble is, do you really want to trouble your family through this process, or do you want them to be well prepared for it? And cultural backgrounds as well. We know that you have a unique culture. At Everest, we work with every kind of culture, every kind of religion, every type of funeral. Even one of the more unique funerals that are being planned out today. Right? So it doesn't have to be a traditional conventional funeral for us to help the family. The other alternative, outside of doing nothing, is you take yourself and you walk into a funeral home and you build your own funeral. So you spend the whole day at a funeral home planning your own funeral. Now, I have not met a whole lot of people that have the guts to go into a funeral home, be like, I want that casket, I want to have this kind of flowers, I want to have this music played, because that is a terrifying experience. And quite frankly, I as an individual don't advocate for it. I get it. I get why people might do it, but it leaves a lot of challenges on the plate. A, You're buying a service that your family's going to be collecting on. So you can say this is the casket you want, but how do they know that that's what you said? It's one. And two is, how do you know that you're going to be in that particular location? Now, in the 1990s, if you looked at the statistics, 60% of people never left their hometown. Today, people are leaving their hometowns in droves. People are moving across countries, retiring in different places because they have the power of choice, and we've made the world a much smaller place. So if we've done that, how can you prepay for a funeral in Illinois if you might be in Costa Rica in 2 months? Because that's where life takes you. With Everest, we are a global planning service. We can plan this funeral anywhere. So you finish this plan in 15 minutes, you're done. You just make your payments, and when that time comes, we will help your family regardless of where you ended up. So if you ended up in the Philippines, in Nigeria, in Venezuela, wherever it may be, we will help your family take care of business.
And to even touch on that, especially from a cultural standpoint, as a Nigerian myself, one commentary is that people have noted, we build big houses back home in Nigeria, but empty. No one's living in the village. But what happens when we do pass away, we want to be buried back in our native villages. So, so I was born in Nigeria, but grew up here. Like we would say 1.5 generation, not like a full generation, right? First generation. I'm fortunate to know my village or know where my parents come from, things like that. But the idea of planning a funeral, how to get the body abroad, how to get all the little details. The average 30-something or 40-something or maybe I'm praying 60-something because I want my parents to live a wild life. I probably still have my family taken care of. I'm not trying to plan all those little details and nuances. So having a service like Everest that can help take care on the other side of the planet, like a 14-hour flight, take care of all of the funeral expense, not just the cost, but also the planning, that's super valuable. Not many people have that resource. Even your best friend, you're probably not going to ask them, can you help me plan my funeral? You're probably not going to do that. No one wants to think about that. So having a service that can help me with that process is amazing. I appreciate that.
So you guys may not know, but I had to use Everest for my father-in-law who passed away in the United Kingdom. Condolences. Pretty recently. And as much as I have thought and assumed that I know a lot about funerals from being in this space, I don't actually plan the funerals. I help with the plans and the structure and the setup. We have a whole team that plans the funerals. They're experts at it. I thought United Kingdom, English-speaking country, Catholic funeral. We have Catholic funerals in the US, Catholic funerals in Europe, Catholic funerals in the UK. I thought it was going to be identical. Boy, was I wrong. We called the Everest hotline at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. And the terms that she was asking me about, I was like, I had no idea what she was talking about. Our advisor, I had to ask for guidance. Like, hey, walk me through it. What is this? I'm not familiar with this. Oh, this is the UK way of doing a funeral. This is the UK option. They do this quite popular here. I'm like, hold on. I was so dumbfounded by that. But the power that this had, because at 11 o'clock at night, we called on Sunday to a different country. We had to figure out what to do. We had no family members on the spot to manage anything. And we're in the US. How do we plan a funeral over there? They're asking us what to do with the remains. How do we want to do it with funeral home? We don't even know the funeral homes over there. We haven't even been to that part of England ever, my wife and I, right? Because he lived in the suburbs. We've been to London before, but not way out in the countryside. So when we called Michelle, she asked us, what's the budget? What kind of traditions we want to follow? What kind of religion we want to follow? When we want it to take place, and do we have a preferred funeral? And we said, we don't have a preferred funeral home because we don't know any. So we're going to rely on you. Here's our budget. Here's what we want to do. Here's what we're going to accomplish. So she said, okay, I'll get to work. I'll put everything together. And by morning, you're going to have an email with some decisions to make. Feel free to call me once you get that email or once you wake up, because I don't want to wake you because I know of the time difference. But I want you to be aware that you will have all the information. So we got a report in the morning of the different prices of funeral homes in the area. And she also gave a nice little blurb of, hey, just so you know, this funeral home is very responsive and very friendly. This funeral home is kind of dodgy. This funeral home seems like they're not really conversing with us, right? They're kind of delaying the response. So just saying, I'm not saying they're bad in service. I'm just telling you this is my current experience. So we looked and compared. We looked them up based on the pictures that she sent of the facilities. The facility we picked. We said we want this one. We want a Catholic priest. We want a cremation, but we also want a casket for the actual ceremony. etc. And so we gave that information to her and she said, okay, now let me get to work. I'll put the plan together.